Okay, so what are you hearing on the tour of Southern Illinois? Just start out.
I hear the same things here that I hear everywhere. Governor, stay the course. Don't back down. Stay strong. You're on the right track. Don't give in. Great to see you. Governor's never come to see us. Thanks for being a governor who comes to see us. And what really distresses me is when I go see departments in state government, they say that. Thanks, Governor, for coming to see us. No governor ever comes to talk to us. Inside departments of the government.
So then what about, SIU kicked out a poll last week, you showed your approval rating in the 30s.
Yeah.
I know things are kind of, complicated right now in Springfield. How does that play into the equation?
Well, no budget is frustrating for everybody. But the reality is people get it. When I haven't seen the poll myself, but I've been told about it. I don't pay much attention to polls. I think they're baloney. They go up and down and like yo-yos, and it's pretty irrelevant. Certainly no way to govern or base management decisions based on polls. But when people say we as a state or we as a nation are on the wrong track, they are correct. That's the reason that we're pushing our reform agenda. We need major structural reform. We can't stay on the track we're on. It's that simple. And your average person gets that. They don't feel good. Southern Illinois has higher unemployment than the rest of the state. Southern Illinois has been suffering under the bad policies of Springfield more than the rest of the state. We haven't been developing our energy resources down here. We haven't been growing our manufacturing base down here. And we're bleeding. And people get it. They can feel it. Our property taxes are high and rising, and their schools haven't been properly funded, and people are mad. I don't blame them. That's one of the reasons I ran for governor. I'm sick and tired of it. I know we could do a lot better. And the simple facts, and this is what I tell folks as I travel around state, I said it's at our earlier get-together today. When people say, Governor, just do a budget. We need a budget. Just do a budget. What that means for most everybody who says it is, that means do a massive tax hike. Okay? Mm-hmm. That would be a huge mistake for the people of Illinois. If all we do is raise taxes, the stream of businesses that have been leaving our state is going to turn into a flood of businesses leaving the state. We need to take action to restore the confidence of business owners and the confidence of homeowners and working families in the state. They don't have confidence for good reason. And here's a simple fact. People have said, just do a budget. That's the priority. Well, budgets are important, but the priority is the confidence that we need from our people and the people who will invest here. So here's a simple fact. We have fewer jobs in Illinois today than we had in 1999. That's a fact. Okay? Brutal fact. Fewer jobs today than 1999. 16 years. And in that period, back in 99, 98, we paid into our state pensions, I believe it was $857 million, if I'm not mistaken, in 1998. I think that's correct. What did we pay last year? $7.6 billion. Okay? While jobs have fallen off. The math doesn't work. In 1999, 98, we paid roughly $5 billion into our Medicaid program. Now, we're spending $17.5 billion in our Medicaid program. Oh my goodness. While jobs are down, the math doesn't work. We can't stay on the trajectory we're on. Your business owners get that. And they look at that and say, so Governor, what you're going to do is just raise taxes, and you can see the trend, you can see the cost structure, and you're asking us to invest in Illinois? Why? We don't need to do that. We can go to Indiana. We can go to Tennessee, Texas. Yeah, when I'm not negotiating with Madigan and Culleton, when I'm not out meeting with the people of the state, which is my favorite thing to do, doing like today, I love it, I love everything about it. I'm talking to business owners and I'm saying, I want you to come to Illinois, get confidence. And they meet me, I walk them through our agenda, they say, if you could do what you're trying to do, we'd come to Illinois. But if you can't, why would we? Why would we go? And some of these companies are in the East Coast. New Jersey's bleeding, yeah. New York's bleeding, Connecticut's bleeding. They got all the problems we got. Mm-hmm. And they say, many of them say, Governor, why would we move from one failed state to another? And I say, we aren't going to be failed. And they say, yeah, but I need to see that you're going to do the reforms. It's nice that you're talking about it, but you haven't got them done. So I'm just buying.
You talk about confidence, and then this last week, Fitch downgrades us to BBB.
Oh, they should have. I can't believe they didn't downgrade us more earlier. The rating agencies, I don't work for them, I work for the people of Illinois. They follow what the trends are. And the reality is, if we do what we're set out to do, our ratings will be very high.
Yeah.
And if we don't, they should be very low. And I spend no time worrying about it. I know what we got to do from an agenda point of view.
I'm sure you've heard about the interview former Governor Edgar gave with the SGR. You know, he kind of said what you indicated earlier: get a budget done. That's the priority.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, coming from a former Republican, coming from a fellow Republican. I mean, you know what? Governor Edgar said to focus on the doable. Is that the way forward?
I'll say a couple
Well, I
things.
guess, let's be specific. What would be the first doable thing? What's some area of agreement that would involve budging but not caving?
But let's take a step back for a second. As I said, just raising taxes alone would be a massive mistake. I spend no time criticizing fellow Republicans, and I absolutely spend no time criticizing decisions made in the past that have created the mess we're in now. That's not constructive. I focus on today, and I focus on the future. Okay? We need major structural reform to restore confidence. What's doable? Let's see. So the vast majority of Democrats and Republicans in Illinois support term limits. That's one of the easiest vote a legislator could take, term limits. The vast majority of Democrats and Republicans in Illinois support redistricting reform so we can have competitive general elections. That's one of the easiest votes a legislator could take. Totally doable, okay? Everybody, Democrats and Republicans, Americans believe in local control. Get big government off, let local people decide their issues. Local control, hugely popular, Democrats and Republicans, and the ability to decide costs in a government that belongs to the people in that government. To me, that's a fundamental principle of American democracy. I'm advocating that we tie a property tax freeze, and by the way, a property tax freeze is one of the easiest votes. In fact, they've already taken that vote. One of the easiest votes, most doable votes they can do, property tax freeze. Combine that, if they do only that, it's really phony, because then the property taxes will balloon in the third year. 2-year property tax freeze really doesn't accomplish much of anything. If you combine it with local control of contracting, bargaining, and bidding, then you shock the system with a freeze to change the culture, and then you give them the power to manage their costs, and we'll bring down our property tax burden very significantly. Hugely popular, and when my opponents in the legislature say, too radical, too hard, violates the core principles of the Democratic Party, I say, time out. Let's take a breath here for a second. Democrats have done this in Illinois and in the federal government and in other states for decades. This is not a partisan issue. This is not a radical idea. In the federal government, 1978, Democratic president, Democratic Congress, passed legislation heavily restricting and defining what can be collectively bargained by federal employees and what can't. Listed it right out there. Most things can't be bargained. They're set by civil service. So Democrats did that. Not partisan, they did that. That doesn't violate any of their core principles. In Massachusetts, just here recently, in 2011, Massachusetts Democrats, Democratic governor and Democratic legislature passed legislation taking health care out of collective bargaining for state employees. Saved taxpayers, I think the number was $700 million. I'd have to get that confirmed, but it's a big number annually in Massachusetts. Democrats didn't violate their core principles, took things out of collective bargaining and government. Okay? In Illinois, every time the city of Chicago wants to save some costs, they go to Springfield, Democrats, Madigan and Cullerton, and say, we need this. They've taken a length of school day out of collective bargaining. They've taken length of school year out of collective bargaining. They've taken the ability to contract out for janitorial services out of collective bargaining. And right now, the mayor of Chicago has asked me and the General Assembly to take out of collective bargaining his teacher pension contribution level. He wants it out of bargaining so he can tell them what they need to contribute. He doesn't want to negotiate with them because he can't win that negotiation. They'll just say, we'll strike him. Okay. So, and believe me, there's plenty of people, Democrats in the General Assembly, who want to give him that ability. Why does Chicago get the ability to manage what they collectively bargain. But Carbondale doesn't. Murfreesboro doesn't. Springfield doesn't. Quincy doesn't. This is baloney. We are not the state of Chicago. We're the state of Illinois. We should empower local voters. Most communities are going to collectively bargain everything. Even if they had the ability not to, they believe in, fine, keep it. What I am not doing, people say, Governor, you're just about right to work. This is not right to work, and right to work is nowhere in our current agenda. Zero. It's not in any of our bills. It's not in any of our negotiations with the Speaker or the President. Right to work is off the table. It's gone, okay? This is about local control, and this is enabling local voters to get a control on their costs. And most of them will bargain everything. Fine. What I am not doing is saying you're not allowed to collectively bargain X, Y, and Z. That's what other states have done. That's why when people say, oh, you're just being Scott Walker or you're being whoever. No, I'm not. They forced collective bargaining out. I am specifically not doing that. All I'm saying is leave it to the people of Illinois to decide for themselves how they want to manage their governments. That's it. It's not radical. It's not extreme. It's common sense, and it'll change the balance of power between taxpayers and the insiders in government, which is what we've got to do. And I can't tell you how many businesses have said to me, Governor, if you could do that, then we could see where Illinois will have a long-term fiscal future that's not New Jersey, that's not Connecticut, that's not New York, and we could see investing billions of dollars in plants there if you could get that done. It's a big deal.
How long are you willing to hold out? I mean, are you meeting with Cullerton and Madigan now?
I meet with Madigan. Well, let me take a step back. So what I've learned the hard way in the last 9 months is talking about negotiations in the press is counterproductive. And so I haven't done it since July, really. And so what I'll say is I'm meeting with the Speaker regularly, and we're making progress. I have met with the President recently, and I've talked with him fairly regularly, and I won't go into details. And then I am meeting and talking with pretty regularly Mayor Emanuel and his key advisors, many of whom I know quite well, and we're making good progress. What was clear to me is that in May and June, when I didn't realize how much the Speaker controlled others, we actually made a lot of progress. We could have been, in my opinion, we could have been done in May and June with the President and the Mayor, but the Speaker didn't agree with the timing and the circumstance, so sort of quashed all that. So we're, we are, in where we are in the process.
Are these meetings were pretty? I mean, I know you don't want to go into a lot of detail on what's being talked about, but when did they kick off? I mean, we met with with President Cullerton, what, 2 months ago, and
3 months
ago,
and
he had indicated that there weren't any meetings at the time.
Yeah.
This is relatively
So
recent.
again, I don't know how much I want to go into detail of timing. So there's what's the right way to say this? There are a lot of ego dynamics at play here.
Yeah. How much of it is personal? You and Madigan just hate each other. That's being talked about.
Make sure to enunciate clearly and take care of that.
But you hear that over again. There's an ego problem. There's a testosterone problem. I've been told that. I mean, how much is there?
Well, Cullerton sat here and said there's a testosterone problem.
Yeah. What I'll say is there's an ego dynamic, and not necessarily between me and others.
Okay.
I'll say that.
So, I mean, how long are you willing to kind of? How long does this go? I mean, where does this end?
Well, a few things. First, Chicago is in deep yogurt, and it's stunning that any organization would be financially more bereft than the state of Illinois, but Chicago is worse. And Chicago has been a government union machine that's dying of its own weight, just being crushed. They have spent money they don't have, and borrowed and not paid pensions, and borrowed and sold assets, and when they tried to sell everything that wasn't nailed down. And when that stopped, they went, whoop, I'm out of here. Good luck. And I warned the mayor. I said, you know what you're going into? And he said, oh, we'll fix it. I said, you know how bad it is? Because I do. Do you know how bad it is? I said, it's really bad. Now, the mayor has asked for things to help. He's asked for help with the teachers'
Yeah.
pension situation, he's helped with the school funding situation, he's asked for a re-ramp of his police and fire pension. And I've said, Mr. Mayor, I will never do a state bailout of Chicago, I won't
Yeah.
do it. I work for the whole state, not the city. I work for people in Chicago too, but I work for everybody. I will never do that. What I will do is help you restructure and get through your problems, and I can give you the power to do that, and I will do that if you help us. If you don't help us get the reforms we need to make the state healthy, I will do nothing, repeat, nothing for the city of Chicago, and in fact, I will block anything you try to do. So that creates some stress. That creates pressure to do something, because December is when a lot of this is hitting
Yeah.
the fan. So that's one timing, is December, holidays, January becomes a time when, the stress becomes quite high. The other dynamic is, after May 31st and before January 1st, anything financial that was to have an immediate effective date needs a supermajority vote by the legislature. Anything after January 1st only needs a simple majority. So there is an incentive for legislative leaders not to take any tough votes until January, because then they only need a majority. So that creates a narrow window of opportunity. And to that, I'll add another thing. The leaders are very experienced at managing pressure, creating pressure. I've seen it, and I'm a pretty good student, and I've learned, and we're all managing our processes. When I first came into office January 12th, I pretty quickly went to legislative leaders and said, guys, you passed a $1.6 billion deficit budget. I think you know that. We're out of money in a few months, and I'm not going to sit here and do nothing. We got to take action. We talked about it. I said, I'm not going to raise taxes. I'm not going to borrow. Let's reprioritize our available revenues and cash resources. We agreed on the broad outlines of what to do, but they wouldn't vote on it for 9 weeks because they wanted pressure in childcare. They wanted the court reporters going, the courts are going to close next week. That's part of the, I don't know you could pick a phrase for it. So that's what's going on now. I mean, we could be done. These are not, as I said, most of what we're advocating is not a hard vote. It's not. It's hard maybe for the personal interest of a legislator, in terms of but in terms of their district and the interests of their voters and their taxpayers, not a hard vote.
So like some of these emergency actions, like the CCAP, for example, that you took when the last fiscal year's budget expired, if you got a budget in place, are those reductions intended to roll over, or is that simply an emergency action?
We've had that. Well, I don't want to get into.
Okay,
let me say this. In general, we've had to take actions that I wouldn't have taken if it weren't for no budget.
Yeah. How's the Hardin Work Camp closure? We've heard it's down 70% the inmate population that's headed towards the planned shuttering, and
that's a proceeding.
Yeah.
There's a lot we have to do, and Sparta, Sparta's an important asset. We should figure out how to maximize the economic benefit to the people of Illinois from that asset. We're the State Museum.
Yeah.
Let me be clear. I'm a big advocate for tourism, and by the way, tourism can be a major economic driver in Southern Illinois, in my opinion, much bigger than it is today. I'm an advocate for tourism and visitors. It's one of the fastest levers we have to pull to generate tax revenue and more jobs. Actions that hurt the visitor ability to grow the economy is very bad. But I'm in a box because we don't have a budget, we don't have appropriations, and what I have to do as governor, I feel like I have a moral obligation, let alone a fiduciary duty. We have to look at what's absolutely essential. We can't put people's lives at risk, and there's certain things we just have to do. Now, tourism is a really, really important and good to do. Is it I absolutely have to do? It's not. I mean, at least I have to exercise my judgment in the role, but I have to exercise my judgment. So we're in a tough situation. Now I'm hoping that we get it resolved in January, and a lot of this can be put back the way it ought to be.
So we hear, daily or at least weekly from groups that represent social service agencies or consortiums thereof that are being forced to cut back hours, shutter their doors all the time. Members of the GA and
Yes.
state employees are getting paid. And I guess that decision was made pretty early on to continue to pay state employees and General Assembly members. Is there some way to motivate behavior by doing something else? Not paying?
Consent orders.
Yeah, they're pretty restricted, I think.
The General Assembly has a continuing appropriation. It's written.
And believe me, I was not happy with that. I was pushing against that, but it sort of is what it is.
I mean, was how much did those consent orders, the various consent orders, how much? Because right now, what government's 87% functional.
But yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
So
by court order, at a higher level than it.
yeah, so you're actually spending more money than you might be
that
otherwise.
even I could work out with the General Assembly. Yeah, that's right.
So how much did that hamstring your or how much political capital did you lose with that? I mean, did it cost you political capital? I mean, all of a sudden, government just went on without a budget, right?
You guys did judge that.
I don't know. I'm just, it's politics. It's the game.
There's a lot of pressure being felt in a lot of quarters, and each participant is hoping that the pressure is bigger on somebody else than on their interest areas. It's part of the process.
Do you still think you have, the political upper hand here?
I'm very confident that we have the support of the majority of the people of Illinois, very strongly. All indications are that's true. And I'm stunned by how many people come up to me as I try. I'm on the road around the state 7 days a week, and that's one of my favorite things about the job. And I'm meeting and talking with hundreds of people almost every day, and I love it. It's actually very surprising to me how many people say to me, "Governor, man, stay the course. Don't back down. Stay strong. You're saying the right thing. The Chicago machine shouldn't run the state. Stay strong. You're doing what's right." And somewhere between 20 and 35% of those people will then say, "I'm a Democrat. I don't even really vote Republican, but I like what you're doing. You're on the right course." And then a significant, it's a minority, but a significant portion will say, "And I'm a big union guy. My boss would be mad if he saw me talking to you, but I know we're not getting value for our taxes, and I know we need more jobs in this state, and I like what you're doing. Don't back down." And and I'll say this too, there are many members in the General Assembly who are not Republicans who are quietly know that we've got to do some things. We can't they don't want to just raise taxes.
When you were here last year, you talked quite a bit about trying to build some sort of one-on-one relationships with members of the General Assembly of both parties.
Yeah.
In reality, how has that gone?
My perception, quite well. And I have very cordial, I can pick up the phone and I have pretty good personal rapport. Had beers, had cigars, had breakfast, lunch, know the families, know the birthdays. I call everybody on their birthday to check in how they're doing, check in how's it going. Good relationship with 2/3 of the General Assembly. Here's a simple fact, the pressure to hold caucus unity, stunningly high. I mean, just, stunningly high. And so that has some impact upon, just purely, hey, let's go negotiate and work out something on some particular topic. It doesn't really work that way.
The phone call works good as long as nobody's able to see it.
So I am cautious. Of course, I'm an optimistic guy, and I'm the most persistent person on the planet. So I mean, I believe we're going to get through this. And my goal is to look back a couple years from now and say, wow, that was hard. That was really difficult. That was really painful. But we took some big short-term pain for major long-term gain. And we are now growing our economy like we've never done before. We are now delivering value for taxpayers like we've never done before. We now got the money in the schools and now have supported our schools at the local level around the state where they're going to be excellent. And where we've eliminated some of the things inside government that needed to be eliminated. That's the goal.
What,
And-
I know you don't want to talk too much about the negotiations, but what's required? Where are your red lines?
Well, see, I wouldn't say that publicly.
All right.
Just wouldn't go there. There are certain things that really move the needle the most. And there's other things that would be really good to have. Let me just describe a few things. So local control is huge, term limits, redistricting are huge. Workers' comp is a bigger issue in this state than most. Your average person in Illinois doesn't even know what workers' comp is. They think it's I don't know, ice cream or something. I mean, they don't know. So workers' comp is broken in Illinois. It's one of the major drivers of businesses leaving the state. It's a major cost driver inside government. Okay, and I'm getting as firm a pushback from the legislative leaders on that reform as anything, because the trial lawyers in Illinois make so much money from the current system, and they fund politicians to such a level that that's a very, it's not a third rail, but I mean, it's a big deal. But the reality is, a lot of mayors are supporting me. The mayor in Chicago came out publicly and said, we need workers' comp reform, and he's correct. It's a major driver of cost for the city of Chicago. Caterpillar told me that, and obviously you know what a great employer, they have some of the best paying jobs in America. They told me that workers' comp costs them 5 times as much in Illinois as it does in all the other states that they build their equipment in. And they've been growing their jobs out of Illinois as a result for years. And many companies have told me, Governor, I love what you're doing, I love where you're going, but workers' comp is killing us. We've been moving our jobs to Indiana because of workers' comp. If you can fix it, we'll listen to you when you want to bring us back over, because we'd rather be in Illinois. With our location, with our hardworking people, with our infrastructure, with what we should be the magnet of the Midwest for jobs. Instead, we are the source of jobs to other states. We can reverse that. I believe it very, very strongly. So many companies have said to me, I was going to leave the state, Governor, until you said you're going to run. Wanted you to win. You won. Now we're giving you some time. You do what you said you were going to do, and we are going to be here and we'll grow here. You don't get done what you're talking about, we're going to leave.
Have you had any conversations with the congressional Republicans, the delegation, or businesses, at the federal level about the XM Bank? That just expired.
Yeah, I got enough,
Yeah.
I got my own problems. That's really not my table. So.
Understood.
Yeah.
So is it harder than you expected?
It's pretty much what I expected. I'll say 2 things. It's way more fun than I expected. I love it. I'm twisted. I mean, I love it. It's great. I love everything about it. The other thing is, the government operations are way worse than I thought. I knew they were bad. I knew there's been nobody in charge. There's nobody in charge. And these departments are run to maximize the benefit of the people working there, not to maximize the benefit. So we're pushing now for merit pay, incentive pay, gain sharing, totally novel. Bosses hate it and are screaming at me about it. A lot of the employees love it. If you're hard working and you care, and most of the people are, they love it. They can make more money. I say, I'd make a ton of money. How about we give you a percentage of every idea money that you save taxpayers? Save $10 million for taxpayers with your idea, get you $100,000. What a great deal! Home run for you, home run for taxpayers. Boy, the union leader's a little cranky about that idea. They don't like that idea. And every department, the supervisors are in the union. They set the schedule, and it's rigged so that overtime gets maximized. And overtime gets into the pension calculation. We are getting crushed, because the system is being manipulated to maximize the personal gain for the insiders. The taxpayers are being abused by the system. It's way worse than I thought. It's hard to change. We're trying to change it. Now we got to deal with the Teamsters. Got a deal, and it's a good deal. It's a good deal for taxpayers. We are about to. Well, I don't want to jump ahead. So I won't say it. We're about to announce another deal.
Ask me.
Not talking about who. But there's a lot of resistance to change.
Yeah.
I'll say this, and I think you guys, having that 1229 bill not happen, that was so huge. Oh, my goodness. Horrible piece of legislation. I was stunned that they would even have the gall to propose it.
Did you know they didn't have the votes when that happened, or was it?
I won't go into what we worked hard to make sure that, terrible. But that bill would have cost taxpayers in Illinois at least $700 million a year. That bill had passed. And for them, see, and this is what's so frustrating to me. The system is already rigged against taxpayers, and your average politician can't stand up to the insiders. They always cave. Always. And that's the problem. That's why we need the local control issue that I'm advocating. And so when the AFSCME leaders say, Governor, we're not going to agree to what you're talking about. Merit pay? No way. Flat base? No way. Changes on health care? No way. We're not doing it. I say, well, we got to do it. The taxpayers need it. And when you compare your levels to other states, we're kind of out of whack here, guys. We got to do it.
If you get some of the things you want, would you ever support progressive tax? I know that's a favorite of some leadership in the Senate.
Again, I'm not going to speculate about it. There's some people pushing a lot of different
Yeah.
ideas. So when we said we've got to do that, and the AFSCME leader said no, I said, well, and then they threatened to strike, and I said, look, you have the right. I'm not going to push you to strike. I don't want you to strike. I'm not going to lock you out. I have no interest in that. But we're also going to keep the government running no matter what. We will. And I'm not scared that you're threatening that. Every other politician would kind of go, they have. And when we said fine, they said, oh my goodness, we can't deal with this guy. He's not being reasonable. He's not like, just running, screaming from the kitchen when we said it. And so then they run to Madigan and say, hey, take him out. Get an arbitrator in here. We'll get what we want with an arbitrator. Don't let me talk to this guy anymore. Good grief. When we play by the rules, they try to change the rules. And the rules are already rigged against the taxpayers. I mean, come on.
Okay. Talk, Bill, a little bit about jobs leaving the state. Let's talk about higher ed and students specifically. SIU, in talking to Brad Caldwell, Randy Dunn, I don't get the sense that they share your, we can wait this out. They kind of want to know something, and they want to know it soon as to what the level of funding they're going to be at. They're losing students. They went through a chancellor search this spring where the finalists basically didn't want to come to Illinois.
Yeah.
At the
I don't
end of
blame
the
them.
search.
Yeah, I don't blame them.
So
let's talk about education and higher education. So I ran for governor to get a booming economy in the best schools in America at all levels. And that's early childhood education all the way through job retraining for 45 years old. I want the best universities in America for the state university system. I want more resources going into our schools. Okay? Broad priorities. That said, our university system has massive redundancies in it, massive overlaps in it, overcapacity in it, and very importantly, in some ways most importantly, our state universities, actually all universities, but our state university system is suffering on steroids the bureaucracy, mismanagement, pensions, overtime, work rules, pay scale, layers of bureaucracy that the state government has. The overhead spending in our university system is stunningly high, and I would say out of control. The taxpayer, the money should go to the teachers in the classroom and the students, not into the layers of administration. Right now, the layers of administration are consuming the resources, and that's wrong. And I need to see the presidents, and I've said this to them, and we're going to talk about it tomorrow, taking very concrete steps to change that dynamic. If we're going to talk about more taxpayer money, because we need to drive value for taxpayers. I want to support them. We could rationalize the overhead. We could also rationalize, not every university should try to be great at everything. Some universities should be great at accounting and business management. Others should be great at nursing. And let's not have every university or 3/4 of our university seats be the same stuff. And we do have overcapacity. We have especially overcapacity in community colleges, and I'm a big community college advocate. We used to do vocational and technical training in Illinois well, in our high schools and in our school, and we've mostly taken it out starting in the early 80s. It's a mistake. Not every student is going to a 4-year college. Not every student should go to a 4-year college, but every student deserves to have a great career with a high income, maximizing their potential. And that means doing vocational training well, That means preparing kids for four-year college and figuring that out. We need more resources, but we need to hold the schools accountable, and we get the money out of the overhead and out of the redundancy, and expand significantly our vocational training. One of the things that's stunning, we have massive job loss in Illinois. People keep wanting to say, well, Governor, the unemployment rate's down. The unemployment rate's down while we lost 7,000 jobs here recently. I mean, it's down because the job left and the person left, and we don't. It's a fact. We have fewer jobs than in '99. Okay, so that's not like debatable. But I'm a workaholic, and I'm traveling the state. I'm meeting with small business owners every day. Hundreds of them have said to me, Governor, we actually have 12 openings in this company right now. We can't find welders, or we can't find young people with the technical skills to fill these jobs. And these are decent. These are not minimum wage jobs. Our education system is not producing the young people to go into those jobs. Now, I was with Red Lake today. They're doing a good job. There's some. So we need to really help train these young people, because there's jobs here, and we can get. Companies will come more to Illinois if they saw that we were training the workforce well for them. So it's going to be it's a win-win all the way around.
So what SIU would call, we're a research university, we need to continue to fund research.
Research is good. Research is good.
How do you differentiate that from layers of administration?
Well, I don't think that's rocket science. I think you can go in and look at where the money is and which programs are being funded by the feds or the state or local or by industry, and figure out. You're right. Research tends to attract bureaucracy around it. You need a junior assistant vice president to report on this. That's true. You're right on that. But you can define. It wouldn't be too hard to go in. I've done a little bit of it. And I think we could all probably have a role model with Mitch Daniels and look at what he's trying to do at Purdue. You can differentiate between what's really needed for the research and what's sort of the stuff. It's so easy in an academic institution to kind of, well, I need another secretary of X, or I need a vice president of administration. They got so many of them, and we can do a lot better. I don't think it would be hard to.
So you think January is the time when the heat gets turned up and something happens?
It's a reasonable, educated guess.
Yeah.
But I hope it's sooner. I mean, I'm pushing hard. We're meeting regularly, and we're using surrogates, and we're using certain legislators, and we're using some of these most senior, trusted advisors to each of the key decision makers to negotiate, take positions. And of course, I'm an optimistic guy, but I think we're making some progress.
Your agenda, even going back from when you were running a year ago, I think admittedly from the time you get a budget or from a time there's a lag in the real economic improvement. There may not be a lag in the mental approach to seeing what that might be, but at what point do you run out of time, not you personally, to, I don't want you, I'm not asking if you're running for re-election, but
ask my wife, she'll tell you.
At what point do you run out of time to see enough results before this has to start up?
I understand where you're going. Let me say this. I think we can start showing concrete results pretty fast, faster than you might think. We're working with the mayor right now in Chicago to recruit a Fortune 50 company. They would like to come to Illinois. Location, workforce, infrastructure, transportation. And they're in a failing state. And they said to me early on, Governor, why would we go to another one? And I said, I ran for this issue. Here's what I want to do. And they said, boy, if you could get half of what you're talking about, we'll come. Now, how many jobs will that produce day one? I wouldn't curl your hair. But you know what? Very quickly, other companies that supply them and other companies that are customers of theirs and the companies who want to leverage their technology will say, oh, we better look at Illinois. And also, immediately the mind shift. If we can announce that, now I can't promise, and I'm not telling names, and I wish I could promise. I can't promise that they'll come. think it's very likely. I was able to convince them. They wanted to decide by now. They wanted to decide, and I said, I can't. It's not done. If you've already decided you're going to Texas, I'll see you. Send me a postcard. But I told them, I said, I personally believe I'll have something specifically to tell you. And maybe it's that I flamed out completely, and we're in deeper yogurt than even I was thinking. But I'll have something to tell you in January. And they said, Governor, we believe in what you're doing, and if you think, we tell our public board that we should wait 4 months for you, we'll wait 4 months for you. Though they're interested. And there's a lot of that at different levels. And I think we can pretty quickly, the mindset will shift. And that's why this agenda is so important. That's why it has to be material. It can't be a little tweak on workers' comp and a little tweak on some sort of a little bit of a cost in government. If that's what it is, but we're on the major track of the other failed states where the government insiders have all the power over the taxpayers. And that's where, I don't know if you saw, if you haven't, you get a kick out of reading Michael Bloomberg's last speech as mayor. Did you read it? Where he talked about the labor electoral complex? I don't know if you guys saw that. I did. There has to be a balance. That's all. You don't have to eliminate collective bargaining. You don't have to strip pension. You don't have to do that. But you have to have a balance. And the states that don't have a balance, they're the states where they're in big financial trouble in the government. And they have very high taxes. The only difference with us in New Jersey is they've already put in a high progressive income tax. They still can't pay their pension. Right? I mean, so it's not like raising taxes just fixes it. It's the balance of power between the insiders and the taxpayers. That's the key. If we can change that, and businesses get it. If I can show that we've restored balance, businesses will come here. I'm firmly convinced of that. And it won't take 4 years for them to start coming here.
Okay. You probably get this question. In various sectors, last year about this time, Governor Quinn was kind of going throughout the state as part of his campaign, kind of doling out money for various things. And
right.
one of those things, he was here at the airport promising a $4 million grant for an emergency response center. And last I checked, they didn't know if that was going to happen, if that $4 million was ever going to come to be. Now, I haven't talked to Gary out at the airport for a couple of months, but is that, and if I'd have thought of that question, I would have sent it to you earlier, but.
Yeah, I wish I could. I can't. I don't know.
Maybe
I don't know about that. And
because last time I checked, I don't think they had any confirmation that.
Frankly, I think all the politicians tend to run around at election time and give away taxpayer money to buy votes. That's the standard deal. My sense is that there are certain things that were run around and promised that might make some sense, or at least a portion of them makes sense. And there's a bunch that don't, and we'll be assessing. I don't care who had an idea. I care if it's a good idea. And I don't, and I'm a volunteer. I get paid for this job. I do it because I love Illinois, and I know we can thrive. I will totally.
We're in the spectrum of the Ileana Tollway. So you kind of shelved it, you haven't killed it, right? So that's kind of where it's at.
That's where it's at.
Yeah.
So why not kill it?
Cool.
It deserves to be killed. You can tell.
You know what's the great things about America? That's what's the great thing about America. Everybody's entitled to express their opinion. It's awesome.
So what should we do? We should be taking out of the last 45 minutes, Governor. What should be our primary takeaway, kind of moving forward?
The state needs major structural reform. It deserves it. It's very doable. It's not radical. It's not extreme, and it's not like they're brutally hard votes. And a massive tax hike without reforms would be a huge mistake.
Extreme. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.